actors in the Great Region.
Thank you very much. Just to start, the views reflected in my presentations are of my own. Here I'm in the capacity of the Rumsfeld Fellow, and they not necessarily reflect the views of the Foreign Ministry of the Republic of Kazakhstan. I will make perhaps a counterintuitive argument that the Eurasian integration processes serve as an impetus for Kazakhstan to foster the Central Asian integration. Here I will depart from three premises about the character of Kazakhstan's foreign policy. First premise, the new great game paradigm is deceptive, as it implies purely deterministic nature of Kazakhstan's foreign policy, whereas in reality, Astana is an active and independent player in the region. My second premise is that Kazakhstani leadership's foreign orientation has always been driven by defensive rationale and sacredness of the nation's sovereignty and territorial integrity. And the third premise is that the principle of balancing embedded in the multi-vector approach continues to serve as the modus operandi for Astana. Let me now elaborate on them and put them in the context of the discussion of the impact of the Eurasian Economic Union. As argued by several prominent European and American scholars studying Central Asia, the concept of the Great Game is deeply misleading, as it neglects the considerable agency demonstrated by the Central Asian nations in their interactions with external actors. The concept is misleading majorly because of the two developments in the region. First, Great Game narrative assumes that there is a strategic vacuum to be filled by foreign powers, whereas today we have at least 5 sovereign nations with firmly established statehoods. Secondly, Great Game narrative views Central Asian states as, to quote Alexander Cooley, passive pawns in the strategic maneuvering of the great powers. In reality, diplomatic history of the newly independent states of the region demonstrates that local leaderships were actually able to successfully play on external actors intersecting or conflicting interests to their own strategic advantages. The premise of agency behind regional states' foreign policy towards the Silk Roads or roads is therefore a necessary ingredient to the discussion about prospects of the stronger integration in the region, be it Central Asia, the Greater Central Asia, or whatever configuration of the region pleases you. To be sure, the Silk Road narratives we are discussing today are not viewed by Astana as something superimposed on the region. On the contrary, Kazakhstan welcomes them and encourages its regional neighbors to endorse them. Kazakhstan's assertive stance towards integration with other 4 post-Soviet states and its commitment for building closer links with other nations of the Greater Central Asian region serves as a good illustration for this argument. As at the turn of the century, Central Asia began to become more and more complex and volatile region, Kazakhstan's leadership's vision for dealing with this plethora of strategic challenges was one of a proactive, open, and cooperative nature. In other words, from early on, Astana wanted to act together with other regional nations, rather than to encapsulate itself from its geostrategic environment or try to broker bilateral security deals with Russia or China. And this open, cooperative attitude can also be attributed to Astana's policies in dealing with the challenges of economic development of the region. Kazakhstan has always demonstrated great enthusiasm about new intra- and trans-regional links, both in north-south and east-west directions. The latest foreign policy concept explicitly prioritizes the Central Asian region for Astana, yet another confirmation of Kazakhstan's pro-Central Asian orientation. There is therefore a great congruence between externally promoted mega schemes for regional integration, be it the American 2011 New Silk Road vision or the Chinese 2013 Economic Belt of the Silk Road vision, and Kazakhstan's own idea of the regional economics if not political, evolution. Let me now go back to my second presumption about the hierarchy of Kazakhstan's national interests. In May 1992, Kazakhstanskaya Pravda published the first national strategy of Kazakhstan, where security and sovereignty of Kazakhstan were listed as the key imperatives. Now, 22 years later, in January 2014, first unclassified foreign policy concept was published. Before there were, I think, 3 foreign policy concepts, and they were all secret. So in this new latest foreign policy concept, I will quote, national security, defense capacity, sovereignty, and territorial integrity of the country remain as the top national interests of Kazakhstan. One may find this persistence puzzling. The situation is different from 1992. We have agreed on borders with Russia, with China. We have solved the nuclear dilemma. Our nationhood is consolidated. So why are there still discourse about this sovereignty and territorial integrity? I give this 2 examples of the official discourse at the different points of independence timescale to illustrate the point that for Nazarbayev and Kazakhstan top foreign policymakers, sovereignty and territorial integrity of Kazakhstan is something sacred, something that is codified in their worldviews. This defensive rationale and the compelling drive for political independence continues to form Kazakhstan's external outlook today. Now, all of us know how, or perhaps most of us know, how Kazakhstan's leadership worldview was translated in Kazakhstan's behavioral model on the global scene. I'm talking about the multi-vector policy, which brings me to my third premise. In order to maintain its independence, Kazakhstan has always practiced a careful balancing act between major external powers. One can also call this balancing principle as playing great powers' interests of one another. Officially, this principle is labeled as multi-vector policy, and there should be no reason to discontinue following this principle today. So to conclude, if we consider the intrinsic interest of Kazakhstan in the integrated Central Asia and the nation's historical eagerness and ability to maintain the balance in its foreign outlook, the creation of the Eurasian Economic Union actually appears to be a positive development for the integrative initiatives in Central Asia. Given that Astana has always aimed at preserving balance along all its vectors, a plausible scenario there is that the signing of the Eurasian Union Agreement this May will propel the proportionate activity in other directions of its to azimuth foreign policy map, including the Central Asian one. Thank you.